Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 6. There's me, Yuwita, the moderator, and Wardah as the speaker. So today we are going to present to you about our material. It is about emerging learning technology. So the first material will be explained by Wardah. Wardah, the time is yours.
Okay, I will explain the benefits and limitations of emerging learning technologies. As with other technology solutions, there are both limitations and benefits when creating and using emerging learning technologies. But with ELT, the limitations are often exaggerated and the benefits are highly variable. So there are both limitations and benefits when creating and using emerging learning technologies. The benefits are: first, potential dramatic learning outcomes. Second, potential to develop unique expertise by overcoming that could be useful both in the short and long term. Next is early access to new technology and opportunity to develop support materials. And the last is structuring of extra time can be used to codify knowledge and provide technology leadership to others. While the limitations are uncertain learning outcomes, the next is technical difficulties, even more than regular technology solutions, including flaws, defects, and limitations in versions of hardware, software, and firmware. Next is increased cost. Next is limited support when things go wrong, and the last is extra time needed to plan and revise new pedagogical approaches. Next is there are three sources for keeping in touch with emerging learning technologies. The first is a leading source that documents the trends in emerging learning technologies is the Horizon Report. They have reports for higher education and K-12 education. And at the time of this publication, the most recent reports were for 2017. The second is AECT. AECT is the Association for Educational Communication and Technology. AECT has multiple divisions. The Emerging Learning Technologies division is geared specifically for exploration of new technology resources, including both process and products. And the third major organization that engages with ELT is the International Society for Technology in Education, or ISTE. ISTE is likely a more familiar name in K-12 circles and is a leader in providing technology standards for teaching and learning. Next is the impact of science fiction and futurism on predicting new technologies. Science fiction is a common place to look for sophisticated depictions of what the future may hold. As in the case of space operas like Star Wars, Buck Rogers, or Flash Gordon, other science fiction often early predicts what the future may hold. For example, the communicator, table computers, and the universal translator in series Star Trek were once screenwriters' visions and all are now in reality, right? Next is futurism. The term futurism was coined in the early 20th century and emphasizes speed, technology, youth, violence, and objects such as the car and airplane and the industrial city. Artistic renderings of potential futures are typical of futurism. Uh, These are some illustration from ancient inventors of technology in future learning. Look at the figure 8.2. It shows a depiction of the future of learning where books are processed and sent directly to students' mind. Note that a history of France was being fed into the machine to be processed for the students to either listen or arguably to have it somehow directly fed into their brains. Shortly after this image was produced, Thomas Edison predicted in 1913 that in the United States, books will be obsolete in schools. This tradition of future thinking continued through the mid-20th century, and another forward-looking series of imagery, Closer Than We Think, was published by Arthur Rimbaud in 1958 until 1963. Look at the figure 8.3. It shows a red bulb depiction of push button education and his vision of the future of learning. In his caption for the drawing, he stated that teaching would be means sound, movies, and mechanical tabulating machine. Students would report attendance and answer questions by pushing buttons. Special machine would be geared for each individual student so he could advance as rapidly as his abilities warranted. Progress records also kept by machines would be periodically reviewed by skilled teachers, and personal help would be available when necessary. The next is Japanese futurist Komatsuzaki published a series of illustrated essays titled Computopia in Manga Magazine Shonen Sunday in 1969. Look at the figure 8.4. It shows his fascinating take on the future of education in Japan. It depicts a smart classroom using wireless computers and light pens, and also highlight automated corporal punishment devices. His vision had many of the trappings of the modern-day classroom management system such as Google Classroom or School Tools. More than anything, what can be learned from futurists is a way of thinking that involves paying very carefully attention to the details of today's technologies. The next is the increasing role of the technology coach and instructional designer. As more technology becomes available, there is a deep responsibility to effectively create the technology effectively. Uh, to counter this, most US states are producing certified educational technology coaches as part of their teacher preparation system, and business and universities are hiring more instructional technologists than ever for similar reasons. In each of the sittings, there is an acknowledgement that there needs to be a team of people whose job is first to filter information about emerging learning technologies or new version of old technologies to the practicing educators, and the second is to take the lead in creating, using, and managing them. Uh, Mentioned earlier, the International Society for Technology in Education, or ISTE, maintains and regularly updates their standard for technology coaches. The, stan- the, the standards are not only used when guiding the preparation of technology coaches for K-12 settings, but also when guiding the training of new instructional technologies. It is no small talk. It is not small task to handle these new technologies. And as was mentioned earlier, one of the significant limitations of emerging learning technologies are the often high technical handlers and additional time needed to overcome them. When setting up a learning environment using more established technology, there is a front loading that instructor need to do, and this task is magnified when using new technology. Having a technology coach or instructional technologist working side by side with the teacher and instructor is, in most settings, understood as a necessary cost of doing business. Okay, the next material will be explained by my friends.
Okay, I will explain about virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. VR is a fully immersed user in a computer-generated environment. Visual and audio input are given to the user, and in some cases, force feedback is added. So virtual reality is the technology that places ourselves as if in a visually simulated environment that we see in VR glasses. And then next is augmented reality. Uh, This kind of technology allows the user to see virtual objects that superimpose on the real world environment. So users interact through whatever they pick in creating the virtual object, usually mobile device, and this technology extends our physical world by adding a layer of digital automation, such as objects that do not exist in the real world, but it is exist in our device. Example of this is a Snapchat where mustache came from your face, and then also the game that instantly viral, it is Pokemon Go. It is example of augmented reality. And then next we have mixed reality. So mixed reality or MR, this technology involves mapping virtual objects directly and precisely to real world objects. While fully immersed in a virtual world, users can physically touch objects that they see in the virtual world. And that adding more sense to the experience that creates an even more immersive experience than VR or AR. So mixed reality is a combination of AR and VR, where objects or people in the real world are dynamically integrated into the virtual world to produce a new environment and visualization where physical and digital objects coexist and interact in real time. Um, Wardah, your mic is uh, on. So next is technical requirements for virtual reality. So virtual reality or VR require a tremendously powerful central processing unit or CPU and GPU or graphics processing unit as well as other high-end components such as solid state hard drive and high-speed memory. Uh, the reason for this higher specification is that the stereoscopic display needs to show image at a very high speed with minimal response time, like at high resolution. For example, it's a full screen that have specification 1080 time 1200 OLED display that refresh each image at 90 frames per second. That means that the computer needs to dynamically produce 180 images each second based on the interaction between the user and the software. So that's why it is need this kind of specification. Next slide, please. So this is the list, name, and specification for some of the more popular VR devices. There is Google Glass, Google Cardboard, Gear VR, and etc. You can read in your book. Next slide, please. So immersion and present, the learning affordance of virtual reality. So what is immersion? So immersion is the experience that directly related to the fidelity of sensory information provided by the technology to the real world. The higher the fidelity, the deeper the immersion is. And then next we have present. So present is state of being somewhere else, often induced by immersive technology. So each provide a varying degrees of sensory information, and it usually takes some time for you to get into it. So in immersion, user engagement with a VR system that result with a being in a flow state. Immersion to VR system mainly depends on sensory immersion, which is defined as the degree which the range of sensory channel is engaged by the virtual simulation. So, present within the context of virtual reality is defined as one sense of being in a virtual world with a high degree of control over the sense. Uh, So VR quickly immerse the user. The higher the quality of VR, the higher the sense of immersion, and the easier it is to gain a sense of presence. So next slide, please. So immersion and presence is the one of the experience that can be had in VR. So with this, students will certainly have a good impact to their learning and to their learning process. For example, a student will be taken to a time where war happened, and they from that they can learn about history. So with this, students get the benefit. Uh, so in this case, students can engage their learning motivation, cognitive abilities, and student emotion can also develop. And next slide, please. And then common virtual reality learning tools. So this is the example of common VR. We have Google Tilt Brush, Oculus Medium, and that's why you can read in your book. When it comes to creating, there are a number of notable education augmented reality tools that currently available. Sorry. For example, we uh, we take Tilt Brush and Oculus Medium as an example. This kind of VR uh, make students to create their own learning. There are 3D painting, and this make it very vividness and this engage their creativity. You can search this Google Tilt Brush in YouTube, and on this Google Tilt Brush, uh, students can color, draw, and even create 3D object using VR. And next slide, please. And then augmented reality apps. So this is the 7 popular augmented reality tools that commonly we use. First is Google Translate, Photomat, and HD Reveal. Some as you can see and you can read in book. When it comes to creating, there are a number of notable educational augmented reality tools that currently available as well. The more AR apps are educational or at least informational, as they provide additional information to the environment or object of interaction. And then perhaps the most powerful or the most popular AR is Google Translate. With this tool, you can simply point your mobile device camera to anywhere, whether it is a brochure or it is a book or sign, and it can translate it in that time. Currently, the major of these apps are used with mobile devices, and more wearable are becoming available every year. And another example of AR is Polymath, where same students can point their camera to the math problem, and that is the answer for that math problem. Next slide, please. And then data security and data privacy. With the development of new technology, new problems arise. A common problem is how to keep the personal pictures safe and protect. How to collect data about students and at the same time keep it safe and protected. Personal data that is unprotected and unsafe will be easily stolen by people to be misused, such as fraud uh, using stolen people's identities. And this is the recommended preventive action to keep your data safe and secure. First, you can apply strong password in your every account, and then you can regularly update or install software, especially internet browser. And we can regularly update antivirus definition and regularly update operating system, and then educate yourself and those you teach about phishing. Or what is phishing? Phishing is a fraudulent attempt to obtain sensitive information or data such as username, password, credit card number, or other sensitive detail by impersonating oneself as a trustworthy entity in a digital communication. So next slide, please. And then artificial intelligence and learning analytics. Artificial intelligence is a wide-ranging branch of computer science concerned with building smart machines that are capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. So artificial intelligence is making its way into the education. So with this kind of technology, student and also the teacher um, can grading, for example, for teacher that can be done quickly and easily using this kind of technology. This kind of technology too can adapt what student need, so it becomes adaptive learning. And then we have learning analytics. So learning analytics is the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of data about learner and their context for purposes of understanding and optimizing learning and the environment in which it occurs. So, for learning analytics work, next slide please. So this is the uh, how learning analytics work. So first they collect the data and they process, and they after that they interpret the data. So they can so teacher or student can get their information about their development in what skill they're good at and in what skill they're bad at. So that is learning analytics. So next slide please. And emerging technology in STEM learning environment. So along with the changing times and the development of technology, so as a teacher, we are responsible to do an important thing for learners. That is to provide them with a growth mindset and with experiences that help them to become lifelong learners. And then the term STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and its various or it is also called STEAM, STEAM, with at art in that has that teacher can equip students with knowledge about coding and robotics, and which student can access via code.org, and with knowledge about robot and coding, that can this kind of knowledge can provide a foundation of both coding and engineering for students. To help support STEAM learning, it has become evident that space that accommodate project-based learning needs to be created and supported. Mark maker spaces for now are now popping up in school, universities, and public spaces. The idea of maker spaces is that within these spaces, learners have access to the high quality production facilities such as 3D printers, 3D scanning, computer numeric control, prototyping machine, or large format printing, and even programmable sewing machine. So this idea is to expose students with the environment where they can develop their learning process. So yeah, I think that is from our material today. It's about emerging learning technology. So if you have any question or additional information about our material, you can open your mic and you can say your name and student student number of student number. So yeah.
Azlina,
Azlina, please.
Ren,
Okay, Azlina, please.
okay, thank you. So my name is Azlina Aisha and my last digit of my student number is 26. My question is there any other source for finding information of emerging learning?
Can you repeat now?
Is it clear?
Sorry, Azlina, can you repeat your question?
Can you
Okay. Is there any other sources? Is there any other sources for finding information of emerging learning?
Is there any other sources for finding
For finding information of emerging learning?
emerging learning? Information of emerging learning. Okay, next question.
please? Dea, please. Fatima, please. Dea, please.
Tata, Tata, the time is yours.
Thank you. My name is Tata Bernaliza. My digit student number is 04. I want to know what is the differences between mixed reality and virtual reality.
Okay. What is the differences of mixed reality and virtual reality? Okay, next.
Fatima, please. Dea, please. Dea, please.
Please.
Dea, please.
Fioran, please.
Prativi, please.
Okay, thank you. So, my name is Pratiska Arun. My last digit student number is 79. So, my question is, you said about with the development of technology, it can encourage the progress in the field of education. My question is, in your opinion, what impact that will this development have on the teaching and learning process?
Okay.
What in,
Can you repeat the question?
what impact will this development have on the teaching and learning process?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, for question number one will be answered by Wardah.
Okay, I'll try to answer Azlina's question. Is there any other sources for finding information of new technology? Yes, it is. YouTube is also a great place to go for finding information from major industry leaders like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, or from intellectual leaders presenting at major conferences. For example, if you search YouTube for Learning Technologies Keynote London and put in a year, you will see the major keynote speeches are available for you for free. Azuna, did I answer your question?
Yes. Thank you, Wardah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any additional information about this? No. Okay, I will go to the second question. What is the differences of VR and MR, or virtual reality and mixed reality? So, VR is a technology that makes full use of the virtual world, so that the user appears in a completely virtual world. So, meanwhile, MR is a mix. Is the combination of the real world and the virtual world. So at the same time, a real world and real world world, and virtual world is integrated. For example, in virtual reality, you can brought to the dinosaur environment, for example, or in underwater environment. But in mixed reality, you can brought this kind of environment in your dining room or in your bedroom or in your house. So it is integrated with your real world. So, Sangha, did I answer the question?
Yes, Yuwita, you did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any additional information? No. Okay. We go to the next question. What impact of the development of the technology to teaching and learning of science? So, with the rapid development of technology, of course, in the future, this will make it easier for students and also the teacher to find any sources for their for their way to teach or for students for their way to learn. So it is going to be the development in field of education where the students can learn by themselves and the student and also for the teacher they can for example grading or see the student development easily. So yeah, I think there is so many benefits for this kind of development. So, Prativi, did I answer your question?
Okay, so the development is both for teacher and learners, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I got it.
Okay. Okay. Is there any additional information about this? If no, we go to the second session. Who wants to ask? You can open your mic.
Dea, please.
Fatima, please.
Dea,
Fioren,
please.
Fatima,
Fioren,
please.
Okay.
Fatima, please.
Dea.
Fioren,
Dea, please.
Fioren, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Fioren Nabila Wijaya. My last student number is 16. Okay, for the question, I want to ask. From your explanation, what is the best sources between AECT and ISTE? What is the best sources between AECT and ISTE? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Dea,
Fatima,
please. Dea, please.
Fatima, please.
Hi. Okay, thank you, moderator, for the chance. My name is Nurpati Marianti, and the last digit of my student number is 21. I want to ask you a question about, along with the development of the era, what things can teachers do to become future teachers? Thank you.
What things can to be a future teacher? Okay, next question.
Dea, please.
Okay, Dea.
Thank you for the chance, moderator. So my name is Dea Pramatasari. My last two digit of students number is 78. So my question is about the teacher's role in emerging learning technologies. Do you get the point?
Can you repeat the question, please?
What is the teacher's role in emerging learning technologies?
What is the teacher role in emerging? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dea. Okay, the first question will be answered by Wardah.
Okay, I will try to answer Fioren's question. Which one is the best between AECT and ISTE? Both are good because ISTE and AECT are interested in exploring learning in K-12 or high school, in higher education and society in general. But ISTE is somewhat more K-12 focused, and AECT has more of an emphasis on higher education and industry. This is reflected in their membership. So both organizations are good places to help establish a network of like-minded people interested in exploring new technologies.
Fioren, did we answer question?
Okay, so both of them have the best on sources, and they have same. I mean, it's like a goal for the best educational field, right?
Yes, Fioren.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, Wardah.
Okay, I will answer second question. What teachers can do to be a teacher? So the first thing that you teacher can do is that teacher needs to be creative and innovative, because in the development of the era, the student, the task or the homework can be easily student do with this kind of technology. For example, Google for example, as we are English teacher, student can easily translate it one passage in the target language in the language that they learn. So with this, teacher can to creative and innovative to create another way of homework or task, so that students cannot be cheating when they do their task and homework. So for example, instead of ask them to translate the language, you can ask them to know the main value of the passage. So they can do that in their without the help, the assistance of the Google Translate. And after that, we need to be adaptive as a teacher. So we need to be adaptive to the development of the technology. So teacher must keep up with the development of technology. Teacher must know what the technology can be used in teaching and learning process. And then after adaptive, teacher 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 needs to be technology literate, because in this 21st century, this kind of technology will be applied in our teaching and learning process. So with this, we can involve, we can improve. We can improve our teaching process. So Fatima, did I answer your question?
Okay, so what you said before, the teacher should be creative and innovative, adaptive, and tech literate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you did. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next. Okay, next question. Okay, I'll try to answer the Permata's question. What is the teacher roles in emerging learning technologies? Uh, so the first is teachers can use these tools to deliver material for learning. And then, as students' learning increases, the role of the teacher is more important, as it takes a high level of experience and expertise to sort through the data and to come up with that best meet the student where they are. Certainly, the task can be aided by the technology, but the teacher's human touch on the process remains critical. Next, teachers should be willing and eager to learn from technology coaches. so that they can work together to create and using the technology effectively for future learning. Dea, did I answer your question?
Yes, you got
I got
the
point.
point.
Thank you.
Okay, with the end of the second session of question and answer session, this is the end of our presentation about our material emerging learning technology. So, thank you for your participation and thank you for your attention. And we close this presentation with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.